And with that, hey everybody, welcome to What Drives Us. It's episode 165 for December 2nd, 2015. When you see me glancing off screen, that's checking the date and the time because I'm not even really sure what time it is. But I know it's Wednesday night at 9 Eastern, and that's why me and my friends here are going to put together an amazing show for you this week. So rather than me waste time blathering about it, I'm going to say that my co-host Sandy Cooper isn't here this week. We hope he will be back soon. And to start off, my good friend in Illinois, Mr. Tony Schaefer.
Hi, everybody. It is indeed Wednesday afternoon, and I don't think we need Danny.
That was so well said. I don't even know what... I'm just going to say, and my friend in Missouri, Dr. Evan Fusco.
Hey, everybody. I agree. Down with Danny.
Wow. I didn't expect a full Cooper revolt. Mark Coughlin in Canada.
No, I am too new. I cannot go out on that limb at this point.
You're so Canadian. You're so Canadian, man.
Yeah. Just nice to everybody.
You're pandering to that nice Canadian stereotype, and I'm gonna have to work harder on pulling some evil out of you, okay? Because that's not gonna fly, my friend. I have too many friends north of the border. You know what I'm saying? I know the truth. Anyway, well, so that's the nice panel that we have this week. And we have a ton of news, so let's kick it off with our 2-minute topics. And I'm going to start with a nice guy who won't say anything bad about Danny Cooper, even though he's not here, Mark Coughlin.
Hello, everyone. My 2-minute topic was concerning the new 2017 Chevrolet Bolt. Bolt with a B. The new...
As in bucket of.
Oh, thank you, Evan.
This new EV, Strictly, is going to be debuted, the production model, apparently, at CES in the first week of January in Las Vegas. So the Consumer Electronics Show, it's going to appear. And that was the story, but what has happened is some spy photos have been taken of the vehicle and displayed on a number of websites. So I'm going to just try to share my screen here and fire it up and see if you guys can see it. So here's a shot of it, the silver car, and it looks similar to the model that was debuted in Detroit last January, but there are certainly a few changes that have been made to the back hatch area, and of course the front looks a little bit more normal than what the demonstration or the concept car looked like.
Sort of Volt-like.
Exactly.
Family,
so
yes.
a lot of people have said that it's a combination of a Volt and an i3. They're seeing that type of convergence in the final design. So this apparently is what the production model that will be unveiled. And again, just to refresh, it's a car that's going to get, they say, 200 miles of range on a single charge. So it'll be interesting to hopefully hear maybe some statistics about the car when it's unveiled as well, although they may not do any statistics at that time and just show the car. You never know with
Toyota
presentation.
style.
Exactly, exactly.
It is, after all, being unveiled in Las Vegas.
That's right. Anything can happen in Vegas.
Right.
And whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, so no one's really going to hear about this.
Well, at least we have the spy show photo to prove it was there.
And maybe this is just like photographer geek stuff, but you know what my very favorite thing, I have to put that picture up again, Mark. There we go. My very favorite thing about the pictures, the leaked pictures, are the privacy curtains that the people shot over to get the image. I just love that they're in every shot. Like, effective curtains, guys!
I can just see a guy standing out there with a metal pole to put his camera on and shove it up into the air to get these shots.
I gotta wonder, or maybe it was a drone. Who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, these days with drones, 10-foot privacy walls aren't going to do it.
That's true. That's true.
But I do like the look. The floating rear, I honestly think they could have done a little more it's just that sliver of black. I almost wish they would have kept the bottom of the window line going straight back and made the floating canopy a little more dramatic. But overall, I like it. The version we saw earlier did look a lot like an i3, a bigger, bulkier, squarer front end. But I have to admit, I like the overall shape. 200 miles is impressive. I honestly hope they pull it off. I really do.
Yeah, they'll beat Tesla to market with the Model 3 at the rate they're going.
They say the release is supposed to be in the fall of 2016.
Yeah, they'll probably beat Tesla by a year and a half.
It's going to be very interesting to see the charging scheme for this vehicle.
Yeah, exactly. How are they going to plan? You know, they've got to do something more than the 3.3 charger that comes in the Volt, obviously.
Yeah.
I would hope.
Right.
But
a 40-hour charging time is probably not going to fly.
200 miles, but you could only drive it one day.
Charge time 1 week.
Yeah.
There's a crank on the side.
But you know what? I do like the fact that the Bolt is expected to go on sale in all 50 states. Instead of like the Volt, for example, or the Prius plug-in that was only in the 13 or so CARB states. They're saying right off the bat it's going to be across the entire country. It's not a compliance car.
Right.
So
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Evan, did you have a 2 minutes? I think you have a 2 minutes.
Oh, just sort of a vague. I don't have any fancy pictures or screenshots to put up like some people do, but I'm just gonna kind of update that Tesla seems to finally be allowing people to configure their Model X in earnest. The latest numbers up to reservation numbers about 4,800 have been invited to configure their vehicle. Unfortunately, you're still, depending on what model you order, even if you configure it today, maybe late 2016 before you get delivery. They're saying, you know, if you want to pay the big bucks and get the performance 90 kilowatt dual, well, they were all dual motor with Ludicrous. As long as you get the 7-seat configuration, you can probably get it early 2016. But any other model is going to be delayed depending on what you get. So. And I still haven't been invited. We're reservation 5,699, so we're hoping sometime this week, early next week, we'll at least get our invite to configure. But obviously, we're going to be down the queue a bit for delivery.
Yeah, hey, but who's counting?
Yeah. Well, and considering there's 20,000 plus reservations, it's going to be interesting to see if they can. I think someone said that the website's now showing that if you reserve today, you don't expect delivery until 2017.
Wow. I know who's counting the days.
Yeah, Tamara.
Yeah,
In a
Dr.
big way.
Dr. Mrs. Fusco is counting the days until she gets her car.
Yeah, she's got 160,000 on her Highlander hybrid and is very much ready to move on to something prettier and nicer and electric.
Mm-hmm.
We installed her charger,
Oh, good.
so
Nice.
we're ready. All we need is a
All right.
dang car.
Awesome. Well, speaking of ready, Tony Schaefer, close out the 2-minute topics for this week.
All right, my 2-minute topic is honestly really quick. It is.
Is it?
Yes, it is, and
Okay.
it's not a lengthy thing. Just that we all saw this coming. We knew that Volkswagen's whole Dieselgate is here, and I do have a picture. Diesel stock was recently. Diesel stock was recently seen.
Is that an official photo?
That is an official photo of.
See the logo?
Volkswagen stock.
There's a logo up there.
Volkswagen. So their stock was anticipated to take a 14% plunge because of Dieselgate, but it has they reported a 25% drop.
Ooh. Well deserved.
Yeah.
Well deserved.
And so that's pretty much it. I just wanted to, it's not that I want to keep kicking Volkswagen. It's just that they make it so damn easy.
Ah, well, it's funny you say that, Tony, because I want to keep kicking Volkswagen. So let's segue right into the main news for this week. And the first topic is Volkswagen has rolled out and I'm going to do this, fix for their European customers. I'm sorry, victims. And the fix is still kind of secret. Volkswagen's being very coy. I don't know if there's some regulation that's not letting them talk about it until it's approved by the German regulatory agency or not. But apparently this fix, wait for the drum roll here, this fix is just a change in the software. And
trust us, we're software experts.
most of you first-year physics majors are going to understand this pretty quick, that if they're just changing the software so that it complies with the emissions regulations, guess what's going to suffer, Volkswagen owners?
The hardware!
Yeah, baby! Your car's going to go slower and be nowhere near as much fun to drive.
Yes.
And if you think my glee is over your suffering, you're absolutely wrong. My glee is over this dread. This is as bad as them offering the gift card 2 weeks ago to American Volkswagen owners.
Which was brilliant.
Oh God! We also found out this week, sort of an unofficial thing that I'll sneak in here. We also found out this week that, hey, guess what? Volkswagen CEO Marvin Winterkorn, former CEO, and the top management actually did know about the software hack. Yeah.
No.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
So they're in jail now, right? You
Yeah.
learned that because they went straight to a jail cell, right?
Of course.
Yeah. And of course they'll be held liable by everyone,
Of
right?
course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
They're
right.
they're gonna have to personally pay the $16 billion price tag
Yeah.
and suck the
And
emission out
They'll
of
have
the
no chance of getting another job with some major golden parachute at another
willing to
big
bet
corporation.
they're already employed.
We have one of our Twitter followers send us a note that they're trying to trade in their VW to get another car, and it's just crazy. They're not going to get anything for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I am genuinely sorry for your pain. You, as someone who bought a Volkswagen, don't deserve that.
Right.
This is
Right.
not about like Volkswagen owners getting their comeuppance. They got screwed, and Volkswagen intentionally did this to their customers, and that's the horrible part about it. Just terrible.
Right.
So yeah, they knew, and their fix is going to be a fix that no one's going to be happy about. And this little saga is going to kind of probably wind slowly on until, I don't know, until we get to some conclusion point, I guess. So,
Yeah.
sorry. I don't have a good segue for this next one, so I'm just going to say Kia is making something called, it's either a Niro or a Niro. I think it might be Niro.
Really? I was going with Nero.
Yeah, I'm going.
Were you going Niro? Okay, maybe
Why
Nero.
not?
I don't know. It's either a failed Roman emperor or a made-up word that they just came up with. And surprisingly enough, it looks very Chevy Bolt, BMW i3.
Mhm.
Dare I suggest Tesla Model X without the gull-wing doors and the fancy logo? But this is their new parallel hybrid, plug-in hybrid car. That they are working on, I think for, I have to quick scroll down and look. I think they're looking at like 2020, which...
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they
2020, ugh.
yeah 2020 on this and
Go Kia! Oh no, sorry.
What?
Is anybody excited about this car?
Well, it's a pretty drawing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'd be more excited if it was an actual photo.
Yeah.
Now, it's not like something like Faraday who's got something legitimate to show us.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah.
Instead, these fake Kia people who don't already... Wait, they make cars already. Well, either way. So Kia's announced that they're moving more towards hybrids, which is good. I think it's sort of Kia-like in that, I mean, saying you're going to have hybrids in your line in the next 5 years in December of 2015 isn't exactly on the right edge of the wave you want to be on.
Yeah, it is interesting how this one statement actually just, as though it's only one, but this one statement really is the icing on the cake, where the CEO said, "Our new model is designed to offer buyers everything they could want from a compact SUV in terms of practicality and styling, while providing the typically low running costs associated with a dedicated hybrid powertrain." So that's like, vote for Pedro and all your wildest dreams will come true. Yeah.
Well, Kia was also in some other news this week. And I picked this, admittedly, because I'm just kind of picking on Kia a little bit. But the Kia Soul EV, sadly, was recalled. They didn't recall all of them. If your Kia Soul EV was manufactured between January 18th of 2014 and September 30th of 2015, which I'm going to guess is probably 99% of them.
There's a lot of them, yeah, I'm sure.
It may be recalled, and here I'm going to quote this article on Inside EVs. They're being recalled, quote, due to adhesive not being of suitable strength. And this is, quote, the adhesive used to secure the steering pinion gear to the steering gear assembly.
That's always good to hear.
They glue it on?
Yeah, see, this is where I always tell people, you're not supposed to use duct tape. Use the metal tape. It's stronger.
That's it. I just, like, as far as I know, maybe every car company on the planet glues your steering gears together, but for some reason I don't think so. And yeah,
so the adhesive that is used, it wasn't strong enough, and the consequence, according to the NHTSA campaign, is if the pinion gear separates, there would be a loss of steering, which could increase the risk of a crash.
Geniuses.
Yeah, so let's just use some adhesive and maybe not test it first.
So are they using the adhesive now due to the worldwide cotter pin shortage?
I don't know.
The problem?
Apparently the robot can squirt the glue in, but not insert the cotter pin.
Right. They ran out of Gorilla Glue, and they just went with China.
Somebody said, get on the store and get some of that goop stuff. That'll work.
Oh, my gosh.
And they used one tube to make all this. No. It's sad. You know what? Any bad news in EVs makes me sad. I'll just say that. So I'm having a little fun with Kia here, but I do hate to see them screw something up with the Soul EV, because a lot of the Soul EV owners seem to be very happy with the car. I followed their group on Facebook, and I don't see a lot of complaining. And Facebook is a good place to find both cheerleading and complaining.
I will, yeah, and I will say this. One thing that is really good in this article is the timeline of how this recall happened. And in October 29th, what the hell? A pop-up just covered my thing. Or no, going back to September.
Very professionally handled there.
Yeah. Come on, what do you need? Do you need some graphics or something?
Yeah, going back to, in September 1st, a dealer opened a technical assistance center care case report talking about the pinion plug, and then opened a second one on September 14th and a third one on September 14th. And within a couple of weeks, then Kia takes notice, and then by the end of October, they make the decision to conduct a voluntary recall. So there is a silver lining that they were very proactive with this.
Yeah, absolutely. Give them credit where that's due, I think. I think that's fair, especially since I'm having fun at their expense. Well, speaking of reliability and glue, Tesla had some issues with Consumer Reports. Consumer Reports was right, but the academic nature of their rightness maybe was a little bit more of a marketing blurb than Consumer Reports would have appreciated. Certainly more than Tesla was appreciated, because Tesla popped back to them not too long after that and said that Tesla Model S reliability issues have been cut in half. Those are audited results, I'm sure.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm sure that comes from a third party. And no, wait, I don't know. You know what? They responded. Good for them. And there's no doubt that I don't think that the thrust of the Consumer Reports article was the Model S is an unreliable piece of crap. I think the thrust of the Consumer Reports article was that the Tesla is a very complicated car, and that there are problems, and that Tesla takes care of them very, very quickly.
Is it just me, or does Consumer Reports seem to be jumping around here? Like they seem to go far to one side and have to backtrack.
You know, I don't know. I don't think they have here. I think it's just one of the nature of social media and things, the way people took that. You know, they dropped the reliability rating, but it was based on numbers, you know, and the number of people reporting is minimal, but probably people that had problems are more likely to report, and so that's going to skew your statistics. So they reported the data that they had on those. You know, they still consider it the best car they've ever tested, and all those things. Those two things aren't at odds with each other. That's still the best car they've ever tested. It just happens that a lot of the early models had some reliability issues, particularly related to the body and then that rear drive unit, which they're still working on trying to get perfected. So, you know, and it's a brand new car manufacturer. So I don't know that those things are at odds, but yeah, it definitely kind of, anything they say seems to get everybody's attention one way or another, no matter what they say. So, but I think, like Russell said, I'm glad Tesla responds the way they do to these things. They come right out front and they defend themselves. They put out the facts at least as they see them, and you know, say, look, here's where it's good. And I think Tesla owners came right out and said, you know, a lot of Tesla owners got very defensive about it, but I think the report was accurate. But what was left out is the fact that Tesla owners are still extremely happy with their cars, and the most would buy another one again, and that the service has been so good that it's really moderated the concern about the deficiencies. Whereas if it was Ford and the car had those deficiencies and you couldn't get them fixed because you couldn't get an appointment and those kinds of things, I think people would be a lot more upset about it.
Yeah, you think the service is good now. Just imagine if Tesla could actually open dealerships and things in states.
Yeah. Well, and of course the big question is, will they, and when, and how many, and all of that.
Yeah. But, you know, it is worth noting, of course, that Consumer Reports sends out these surveys to various car owners multiple times, you know, like every year. And so, like Evan said, it's, you know, maybe the first, you know, the first generation of the Model S has had problems, but Tesla's working through it. And, you know, they're very agile as far as car manufacturers go. So next year, they'll get better responses, and then the year after that, they'll get even better responses. So,
yeah. And did you hear the little side news story for Tesla was that with the seatbelt recall, they were actually visiting supercharger stations and checking seatbelts while the cars were recharging, without even appointments, which was, I thought, was inventive and a great idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they're going to. I haven't heard from them yet, other than the email they sent out to everyone about getting mine checked. And I'm curious how they're going to handle us that are more rural, don't use superchargers very often, and are 200 plus miles away from the nearest service center. What I suspect they're going to do is they're going to send a ranger in a truck out one day, and he's going to just tell everybody he's going to be in town, where you're going to be, and I'm going to come check your seatbelts. Just make a tour of us in the boonies.
I see a new job, Tesla seatbelt replacement guy.
There you go.
I could just travel.
They haven't replaced any.
No.
Other than the one that came apart. The rest, they're just testing them to make sure they're okay. It takes less than 2 minutes.
They basically just pull on it. Yep, you're good.
Nice, Tony. I think. Are you sure that that's the exact test that they're using, or
it's a multi-step process. I think what it boils down to is grab it, link on it.
So what you're saying is you may have just been using some shorthand to describe this test. You haven't actually witnessed it.
Yeah, the more in-depth test is to get in the car, buckle the seatbelt, ram into something. If you don't go through the
Excellent. You didn't die. Your seatbelt's fine.
All right. Yes.
Well, speaking of crash test results, I'm not even sure how I'm going to work. Ooh, this is kind of a tough one.
Oh,
Streets Blog Network reported, along with lots of other people, you may have seen in the news that a Google car, a self-driving Google car, was pulled over in Mountain View, California, and a traffic officer duly wrote the car. I'm not sure, maybe the car, maybe the people in the car, maybe just Google in general, wrote them a ticket for going too slow. What is ironic and not at all humorous, as pointed out by Streets Blog, is that the street, and if you're familiar with the peninsula as I am, El Camino Real is a huge major thoroughfare that runs the length of the peninsula from San Francisco down to San Jose. It is a very dangerous intersection. In fact, right where the police pulled him over and wrote him a ticket for going too slow, more than a few pedestrians have been killed in the last few years. So I guess the reason I wanted to bring this up is that one of my bugaboos long term is the fact that we don't really have any kind of serious speed enforcement in this country. That it's strictly a revenue generation thing. I'm not saying cops go out and write tickets to make money. I'm saying that we don't seriously enforce the speed limit anywhere. And part of that is because no police department wants to. It's no fun. And no voters want to support governments that do that. They don't like speed cameras. They don't like speed traps. Nobody wants to go the speed limit. Now, we can argue about whether the speed limits should be adjusted. We've had the discussion. We had a really good discussion with John a few months ago, or maybe more than a few months ago, back about that. But I do think that is part of this discussion, which is if the speed limits are reasonable, then why don't we enforce them? Why is a guy in a Prius a problem doing the speed limit in the right lane? Because I often hear things like that. And that what a douchebag that Prius driver is for doing the speed limit in the right lane.
well, or here in the Chicagoland area, if you're on I-94, if God forbid you're doing 65 and a 55, everyone is right up your ass. No joke. You are inhibiting traffic by going 65 and a 55. So I'll drive 50, or not 50, I'll drive 70, and I'll almost keep up with most people and still get blown away by a bunch of other people. Now it is the interstate, and a lot of people gravitate over to the left two lanes because they're going from all the way to the top of the Chicagoland area to all the way to the bottom of the Chicagoland area, and they don't want to deal with on ramps, off ramps, whatever, and they're just flying down these two lanes. So build an express lane. That would be awesome. But yeah, in other areas, at grade streets in 35-mile-an-hour zones, if I'm having a good time running on EV, pulsing and gliding at 40 miles an hour, I'm the problem. At grade residential area, I'm doing 40 and a 35. Oh, and this morning, no joke, this morning, I was passed coming out of a school zone. No joke. If I'd been quick enough, I'd have gotten video.
Anybody else?
Yeah, it's a problem here as well. It's something that everyone knows that you're driving on a 400 series highway, which is a divided highway up here. You're driving somewhere between 15 to 20% over the limit to keep up with traffic, and that's just it's commonplace. Anywhere in the GTA, people are regularly driving that fast, and as Tony said, if you're in the left lane, you are really holding up other people that are doing 30% over the limit. So right. It is kind of dangerous, and if you're doing just the regular speed limit, my gosh, you'll get the looks, you'll get the beeps. It's terrible. But I don't know what the solution is, because we don't we don't want tickets. Nobody wants to pay for these automatic photo tickets, but nobody wants to drive the speed limit. Maybe we have to open up an Autobahn. I don't know.
Well, even the Autobahn is regulated. I mean, there's parts where there is no speed limit. However, the Autobahn is monitored by German police, and they do have the drive right philosophy that if there's no cars around, you drive in the right lane. Slower traffic has to navigate to the right lane. You have to maintain a safe following distance. I mean, the Autobahn, doesn't have speed limits, but it does have regulations, and these are the things that I see people in the U.S. Tailgating at distances that are absolutely insane at 75 miles an hour.
Or
I mean,
85 miles an hour.
85 miles an hour. One blip in something, one person checking a text, or around here in the fall we have deer, and it's over. I mean, basically that's just really bad.
I just think you pussies need to learn to drive.
I was waiting for that.
Yep. I'm not worried about myself. Just to be clear. I'm not the reason I wear my seatbelt. It's all the other idiots I see out there.
I'm
No.
completely.
But
and I've driven the Autobahn, and it's a beautiful thing to drive on. It's a dance out there. Everybody follows the rules. They do what they're supposed to do. You're approached by somebody coming up behind you. You're immediately in that right lane and let them go. And it's just such. It's really amazing how smooth the dance is. At the same time, when they do have accidents on the Autobahn, they're horrific. I mean, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
In fact,
There aren't many vehicles that survive 100-mile-an-hour plus crashes.
You're right. This kind of segues into, in speaking of the speed and then the Google car, we kind of tossed out the idea earlier. If autonomous cars become allowed as a regular vehicle, will they be regulated by the speed limit at the time, or will they moderate their speed based on the flow of traffic?
I can't see them going above the speed limit. Otherwise, what's the point of having the speed limit at all?
Well, right.
And that's sort of my argument now, though, is what's the point? I mean, no one obeys a speed limit anywhere. Anywhere. Tony, your school zone thing is how many times is... I can't tell you how many times I've seen that happen.
Oh, it's not the first time I've been passed in that school zone.
Yeah. And my favorite one is the SUV with the baby on board sticker that blows past me at 40 miles an hour while I'm doing 15 in the school zone.
Oh, well, that's actually the dad, and the baby is screaming, and the mom's screaming too. He just wants to get the hell home.
Yeah. Avoiding an Amber Alert or something. Who knows?
He's not afraid to die.
Yeah. This is an interesting question, and a lot of it is because culturally, in the United States, we have developed this idea that the speed limit is a ridiculously low number that should never be obeyed, and I think that's sunk in, literally just sunk into all of our brains. Is that no matter what the speed limit is, it's not fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
And the police enforce it when they want to. Municipalities enforce it when they want to.
Yeah, there have been multiple articles in the Chicago Sun-Times and the Chicago Tribune talking about speeding on the interstates, and the police have basically said if you're going with the flow, if you're staying in your lane, if you're not doing anything stupid, then you're not drawing attention to yourself. But they're like, basically, if you're doing 115, we'll probably stop you. And that leads into a whole other thing where people have received triple-digit speed limits, and they actually get out of them, and it has more to do with political pull than anything. But they've basically come out and said, don't be an ass, and you can do whatever you want.
So to circle back a bit, though, I think there is something legitimate to be said about, unusually slow vehicles being equally dangerous on the roads. Well, maybe not direct danger to the occupants of that vehicle in an accident. It certainly disrupts the normal flow of traffic. And when you can go 85 in a 60 and everybody's doing it, there's a certain flow to that, and there's a certain predictability to that. I'll go back to the example in traveling in India. Those roads were frightening to me, even though there were very few cars, and really none of them could go whatever speed limit there might be there because there were dirt. But the problem is that there were people, animals, carts, scooters, little
Animals on
little cars, like little cars that could go like 35 to 40 miles an hour, big buses loaded with straw, hay, animals, things like that, and then there were modern vehicles. And so essentially you had 5, 6 different speeds of traffic flow all traveling in the same lanes of traffic, and it was frightening as hell because there was no predictability about what was going to happen at any given moment when you were moving along. And that predictability is something that we need as humans as a pattern to recognize. We can, look at, can you imagine putting a car driving 50 miles an hour on the Daytona 500 track in the middle of a race? What kind of disruption that would cause? It would. I mean, there would be crashes left and right, and it's the same sort of thing. So I think there's some legitimacy to stopping a vehicle that's clearly impeding the natural flow of traffic, because they're a danger as well.
Why am I not surprised Evan is taking up the role he is? Maybe I just know you.
I don't know, but maybe. I mean, this I could segue into less things, but I like the idea of autonomous vehicles a lot. If everybody has one, if everybody doesn't have one, you insert the human element into things, and it's not going to work. And then people are going to complain that it's the fault of these autonomous vehicles. They're driving too slow. Whatever. It's not the autonomous vehicle's fault. It's the human fault, because we are unpredictable and we are fallible and we do things that are unexpected. Whereas the autonomous vehicles are going to do exactly what they're supposed to do every time, exactly the right way. But we don't drive that way. We don't exist that way as humans.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I completely understand. We are animals. We do have sort of a herd or crowd mentality that as long as we're all moving the same speed, everything's fine.
Yep.
But like Evan said, you introduce some level of disruption, and suddenly you have a disruptive situation that could end catastrophically. And it goes either way. Is somebody driving too fast, and then they cut somebody off, and they cause that person to tap their brakes, which causes the person behind them to tap their brakes, which causes that whole big ripple effect. And people that drive so slowly that everyone has to go around them and create more disruption. So I don't know. I think the four of us are going to end up solving this by the end of the hour, and we'll be done.
Just a short little paper, and we've got it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. I'm just going to leave it there for now. This is going to be an ongoing topic that we're going to explore, and as we see autonomous driving in its various aspects begin to be more of a reality, this issue is going to come more to the forefront as how we determine these autonomous vehicles operate, and as we get people to accept the limitations inherent in them, which is, hey, guess what? You had a bad day, you can't floor the gas pedal. You can't take it out on the road or somebody else. You're just going to have to get in your little autonomous car and sit in it until you get where you're going. That's sort of the cultural thing that I think they have to fight. And this isn't just about angry people and road rage. This is about people who express themselves through their vehicles. And I think that's a very, I won't limit it to just us, but I think that's a very American trait. And certainly there are other places that have that. But I mean, deep down, Americans associate personally owned automobiles with freedom, and that freedom comes with a cost, and that cost is most drivers are scofflaws. They could care less what the speed limit is in any zone. They just do what they're going to do.
Can't disagree with you there.
Yep.
So, Anyway, we did have a story scheduled up next about Arcimoto, but you know what? I'm going to leave that until Patrick comes on, because Patrick knows them and was there. And if I say anything mean about Arcimoto and he's not here to defend them, it's kind of like me picking on Tesla when Evan isn't around. You know? So
So you never do that then?
I never ever do that, Evan.
I will say, I am intrigued by the Arcimoto.
That's one of us.
Yeah.
Okay, no more. So I want to talk about my favorite new. You know what? Since Fisker went out of business and has been flopping around like a dead fish now that they're sort of back in business again. Speaking of which, I saw a tweet from them with like a 2-minute video about how cool it is to drive their cars. And I'm thinking, what cars? You guys haven't made anything yet. Are you still driving those old ones that didn't work that well because your company went out of... Anyway, let's talk about Faraday Future. Faraday Future is the hype machine that won't die. I worked in marketing in music business for 20 years. You could pretty much tattoo across my forehead, I have no pride whatsoever. I have no dignity to save, okay? Faraday Future makes me blush. I just like everything they do is hype, is it's inflated, it's smoke and mirrors, and all under the ruse of we're not ready to reveal what we're doing yet.
Mm-hmm.
Then shut up, because you've got nothing to say. You don't have a product. You don't have a company. You're a hype machine, supposedly backed by some billionaire from China. You supposedly have 400 employees doing God knows what. They're not... I don't know what they're doing, but they're apparently...
Well, they've got 5th graders doing their computer graphics, though, apparently.
Well, there's that. Yeah. There's that.
Fancy.
So I got... There was an article in the Drive, which I'm not going to read except for the first sentence, and it's just because it's so Faraday Future. I have to wonder if Faraday didn't write this story for the Drive. Quote... First sentence of the article, quote, Faraday Future is focused, in the heinous parlance of our time, on disruptive mobility solutions, end quote.
I don't know where to begin understanding that sentence.
Yeah, are they making a car or not? And you don't get the double entendre of being able to say heinous parlance of our time and then wallow in the heinous parlance of our time.
Hype machines can do that. They can run both sides.
Am I being unfair?
No, the company's director of communications, Stacy Morris, said their long-term plan is to, and I quote, create a vehicle that meets the unmet needs of today's drivers. Primarily, the reason I drive, my primary need is to get from point A to point B. My car already meets that need. What else do you got?
But is it a disruptive mobility solution? I mean,
well, when I drive the speed limit in the left lane, yes, I am a disruptive mobility machine.
Okay. So anyway, the big reveal here, the big reveal is that the reveal won't be until CES in January. Faraday's going to reveal something, what they do, what they make. Obviously those 400 people haven't been whittling a car. It's probably going to be a picture of something or maybe a clay mock-up, who knows what. But it's not going to be an operating vehicle. It's not going to be a billion-dollar factory. I'm bored with it, I guess.
There's this, you're right. This first paragraph is just so full of shit.
Thank you.
It really is. Something that is zero emissions and battery powered. Something that is autonomously capable. Something that maintains the majority of its functional systems and knowledge in the cloud. What? What are you possibly making here? And I don't know that I want my cars. The majority of my car's functionality systems and knowledge to be
Google
in the
there?
cloud.
Well, yeah, I mean, we talked about a few weeks ago how the du jour theory about Faraday Future was that it was the cover for the Apple car. But that's pretty much been, well, it was ridiculous on the face of it. And yeah, supposedly now it's this Chinese billionaire's project, so Anyway, you know what? I don't want to talk about Faraday. They make me sad. I want to talk about the Audi A3 e-tron. And do you know why I want to talk about the Audi A3 e-tron?
Tell me.
Well, it's not because I can't trust anything about this vehicle because of where it's coming from and that it could easily just be more hypey, made-up stuff to sucker people in. It's actually this rather almost unbelievable figure that the Audi A3 e-tron is going to get up to 17 miles of EV range.
Woo! 17.
Bring it
Man.
on.
Yes.
Pretty much puts it on par with the Prius plug-in, which is, I mean, you know, all respect to Danny Cooper, which is pretty much universally recognized as a failed plug-in vehicle.
All I have to say is the size of the Audi A3. How did they find the space to fit a battery that small in a car that big? Boggles the mind.
Yeah. And I think it's cute that this came from Inside EVs. I think it's cute that Inside EVs said, and I quote, the A3 e-tron is priced fairly aggressively in the United States from $37,900.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure how a $38,000 17-mile range plug-in is aggressively priced. Is that aggressive? Is it like aggressively like being mean to the customer?
That's the aggressive they were going for, yes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. I mean, giving you little value for the dollar. Are those 4 rings really that valuable? Evan, are you thinking?
I like Audis. They're nice cars. So
How many do you own?
So how? No, none. But and so what's an Audi A3 non-electric cost?
No idea.
I don't either. So I mean, I'm saying, what's the markup on it for the range? You know.
I don't know.
I could tell you if I cared to look it up.
You look that up,
So
and
you're
I'll.
looking at 31,000 base.
Okay.
You know, and I'm sure they probably throw in a few, you know, extra bonus features if you get the e-tron, you know, some nicer touchscreen or something. So I don't think that's completely. Yeah, I mean, I grant you it's not a cheap car, but it's an Audi, and you're going to pay your Audi premium, and they're luxurious, and they run well, and so I don't know. I don't have a big problem. Maybe there's a little drama in the aggressively priced statement, but I don't think it's ridiculous.
Okay then.
Yeah.
Back off.
I just-
I don't know. 17 miles seems like a 2009 headline. Like
Yeah.
it's just not there.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
But
It's for a lot of people that's gonna get them to working home.
Could be the
I mean,
start. I can see that. It could be the start.
And as Cooper said about his Prius plug-in, again, we panned that vehicle for a couple of years for various reasons. Cooper loved his, and if Toyota Financial wasn't one of the dumbest, most grievously nasty companies on the planet, he would probably be keeping his Prius plug-in. But even though he's been waving money at their face, they haven't been smart enough to take it. So, you know, I'm not saying that there's no place for this car. It does. Thank you, Mark, for putting it. It does seem like, oh, this is great. You know, this is like, hey, here's a 3-megapixel camera. Are you excited, Evan?
Yeah.
But it's a really nice 3-megapixel camera.
But it's Nikon.
No, well, I'm thinking Leica
Oh.
actually.
Okay, I don't know.
One of
Let's say
my
that.
photographer pet peeves is Leica comes out with a limited edition Airme leather, you know, Leica digital camera for $30,000, and it's like a consumer Nikon.
oh,
You know?
jeez.
It just makes me
But it says
sad.
like on it.
Yeah, but it does. It's got the red dot. Who doesn't love that? Trying to think. You know what? I'm going to skip to the end here, guys. And I want to deal with this last one. Metro Mile had posted an interesting little embrace the chill with these fall driving tips. And we've in the past done this before, and I know it's kind of old, but I don't think that. I'm sure that there are people that can benefit somewhat from this message. Maybe not our listeners, who are obviously uncommonly smart and discerning people, because they're our listeners and our viewers. But nonetheless, just so I want to hit you guys up for some tips on what are the first things you do when the seasons change with your vehicles.
Me personally is
nothing.
I check my tire pressure. That's about it.
I was gonna say tire pressure is the big thing right there. Tires deflate when the air gets cold.
Yeah, much quicker.
Is it 10 pounds for every 10 degrees?
No, it's just 1 for every 10 degrees.
But
here in Chicagoland, we every 6 months we go from basically 100 degrees Fahrenheit to -6 and back. So that's a 10 psi swing when you look at 100-degree Fahrenheit swing.
I should add that I do switch over to winter tires on the Tesla because it rear-wheel drive and it doesn't really like going uphill on snow and ice without them.
Does the nose swerve around?
The nose?
Yeah. Are you saying the back fishtails?
The back fishtails.
Yeah. Interesting.
I would say check your fluids when you get into late fall. Just do a fluid check. On my Volt, I've got some different fluids for battery cooling, and that's one thing that I will check level of, as well as the rad fluid. So you just your basic fluids and oil check if you've got a gasoline motor in it as well. Probably a good thing to do at the end of the fall term.
And one thing from our friend Paul Guzik, who's taking the night off, but he has sent me an email. And Paul, those of you who've seen this can imagine that Paul's language was probably a little more colorful, a little more descriptive than the way I'll put it. But Paul was basically imploring, begging, pleading with Prius owners that have over 100,000 miles in their vehicles to please, for the love of God, check your oil. He said that he's seen more 100K plus Prius motors that have, and I'll use this word, grenaded, which is probably not a good way to describe a motor.
Wow.
I'm thinking that's probably bad, grenaded.
Yeah.
Doesn't paint a pretty picture, no.
Yeah. So, check your fluids, check your oil. I think that's, it's obvious, but obviously people don't do it.
I will say this is not necessarily car related directly. It is driving related, and I hinted on it earlier. But for living in the Chicagoland area, and I live far removed from downtown Chicago, on my regular drive to work, I drive through forest preserves and through some relatively rural areas. And something a lot of people don't take into consideration is spring and fall. If there's white-tailed deer in your area, they are more likely to be running around in the spring and the fall. So, you have to slow down and watch the peripherals because those things will jump out in front of you. I've seen it more than a few times.
You mean like deer?
Deer, white-tailed deer.
Oh. Evan, you just sent me a link. Are you going to talk about this stuff? Do you want me to?
Actually, I'm not even sure. I sent you a couple of links. I don't necessarily need to talk about it. It's just couple. I saw an article the other day, and the two I sent you, neither one of them are the one I saw. But there's all kinds of stuff out there about winter driving myths. So don't believe everything you hear out there, folks. There's a lot of crazy stuff they tell you about winter driving. But
right.
Hopefully most of us are experienced winter drivers. But my favorites are always the four-wheel drive, being better in the snow thing.
The all-wheel drive, yeah. There is one here, number 4, is you don't need to let your car warm up anymore. Mm-hmm. And that is such a huge thing in Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. People with, remote starts, of like letting their cars run for 20 minutes, not shutting it off anywhere they go.
Yeah. So that's more to keep the cabin warm than it is to...
it's more for themselves.
Than the engine. There used to be, the theory was for the engine. Now I think it's just...
Now
they don't want to be cold for 30 seconds.
What's this number 6? It says Tesla rear-wheel drive is worthless in the snow.
You get big
I'm just
crappy
kidding, Evan.
tires,
It
don't
doesn't.
you?
I've only made it through 3 winters so far, so it can
I
still go bad.
I'm sure.
Uh-huh.
We did have to push it once.
And just slow down generally as the seasons change. Like I know that when you get, as Tony says, when you get that wild swing of temperature, people just are not used to slowing down a little bit as the ice starts to form. If you take that little bit of extra time, and you'll arrive at your destination safely. So just slow down a little.
And part of the measured grip of tires on road is based on the actual grippiness and the softness of the rubber of the tires. When it is cold, tires, may not be warmed up enough to be very grippy, especially first thing in the morning when you're taking off. Your tires are going to be cold and rigid, and maybe your stopping distance is increased. You got to just, be mindful of things like that.
Absolutely. All good ideas. Okay, gentlemen. We covered a ton of stuff, and I apologize that, if we ran through that, but I since we took Thanksgiving off like the lazy people that we are, I thought maybe we should try and get caught up on the news. So, shout-outs. Evan, I bet you have some really good shout-outs this week.
No, I never had good shout-outs. Tesla Motors Club, good website for Tesla-related stuff if you're looking.
Wow.
A ringing endorsement.
What do you want me to say?
Nothing. I wanted you to give a shout out to Blue Microphones for your new.
I got Blue Microphones, and shout out to Springfield Armory for my new handgun.
Oh, flashing the hardware of all kinds. Mr. Coughlin.
Just a shout out to our group, WR Voltec. Please follow us on Twitter or Facebook, and we appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Absolutely, thank you. And do follow WR Voltec on Twitter. They're a good follow. Mr. Schaefer, Fat and Cleanup on the shout outs.
I want to remind everyone of the facebook.com/whatdrivesus page. I remember when we were rooting for like 200 people to like our page. We're now at, believe it or not, 674.
Wow.
Which is humbling and surprising. Most recently, John Stefanov. I want to give a shout out to Jason Stefanov for giving a like to our page just today. And so that's awesome. Welcome aboard. And the usuals, Randy Mays, Lee Moon, Jim Carr, Linda is interacting with us on Facebook. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, so find us on Facebook and continue the conversation with us, and of course to Patrick Connor, who primarily posts most of the articles to the Facebook page. So he's awesome.
He is. He is. Well, since Danny isn't here, I'll do his heavy lifting for him. PriusChat.com/shop. It's hard for me to say. Maybe it's not hard for you to visit. If you own a Prius and you need anything for it, any accessories, whether they are ashtrays or ashtrays, you can't get them at the Prius Chat shop. But if you need mud guards and door sills and heat shields and shark fin antennas and all the other fun stuff that Danny sells for all the different Prius models, you can find them at PriusChat.com/shop. One more time, PriusChat.com/shop. My thanks, as always, to Michael Mannering for our theme music. You can visit him at manthing.com, and my continued apologies for the crappy way that we presented it while I am on the road. That's the nice way to say it. Let's see. WhatDrives.us. Visit us there. Download the show, stream it, watch it, listen to it. Do whatever you like. Of course, you can subscribe through your favorite podcatcher, whether it's iTunes or Stitcher or something else. Look for a new, expanded, and much more exciting WhatDrives.us website soon. Tony Schaefer and I have some evil plans in that regard. And Yeah, we may see some new things on the show too. So definitely stop in and say hi. As Tony said, Facebook.com/WhatDrivesUs is a fantastic way to interact with us there. I even pull news from there from time to time. So I'm just going to say thank you to my panelists this week, Mark, Tony, Evan. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good show.
Thanks. And cheers to Evan and Tony for their new matching microphones. Are you guys twins?
Yes, we are often confused for.
I got all the pigmentation though.
Oh, that explains why he got none. I get it.
Yes.
I get it. Do you get equal time in the Tesla, Tony?
He got the pigment, I got the knowledge.
Oh! Oh, okay. Before we have a horrible example of sibling rivalry here, I'm going to say, most of all, thanks to all of you. Download us next week and find out what drives us. Play the theme. Oh. That wasn't very good.
So.
Okay. See you next week.